Alright, so here's another B1 topic. This is alleles. Now, alleles is a word that people often use incorrectly. An allele means a different version of the same gene. That might take a little bit of explaining. We inherit from our parents 23 chromosomes from our mother, 23 chromosomes from our father. Each chromosome comes in pairs. So if I draw a couple of chromosomes for a second, put some genes on it. So let's imagine this is pair chromosome number 1, why not? Remember, we've got 23 of these pairs. I'll colour them in to represent a couple of genes. Now notice that on the pair, remember, one would come from your mother, one from your father. The genes are in exactly the same position, or exactly the same locus, as we call it. Comes from the same, the word location comes from the same meaning, locus, a particular place. So in fact we inherit a gene from our mother and a gene from our father. Now, some older books, they used to talk about things like eye colour, inheriting blue or brown or green eyes. We now know that it's a bit more complicated than that. There are actually several genes involved in looking at eye colour, so we don't use eye colour anymore. A common one we might get is being able to roll your tongue. Okay, so let's imagine this gene here, this gene location in the middle, is going to be the gene for being able to roll your tongue. Now it's possible to get different versions of that gene. For example, it's possible to get a version of that gene that allows you to roll your tongue and a version of the gene that doesn't. This is where we get into dominant and recessive. If you get the version of the gene or the allele of the gene for being able to roll your tongue, we would say that that allele is dominant. And the way that we show dominant alleles is by using a capital letter. Now it doesn't actually matter. I could use any capital letter here. I could write A or I could use B for it. I'm going to write T for tongue, but it doesn't matter. Generally speaking, you would choose letters that look different in capital and lowercase. Recessive alleles would be written lowercase. Of course, we're going to use T. Okay, so let's just get rid of those ones now. We're going to use big T for the dominant, small t for the recessive. Dominant, try not to use the word stronger or more powerful. It's got the wrong kind of implication. What we can say is if a dominant allele is present, it masks the effect of the recessive allele. It hides it. Okay? Don't talk about it overpowering or being stronger. The dominant allele masks the effect of the recessive one. So just to recap, we inherit two chromosomes, one from the mother, one from the father of each pair. We've got 23 pairs here. But for each gene we've inherited, we've got two copies of each gene, so we've got two alleles for each gene. It might be the same allele, we might get two dominant ones that we would call homozygous dominant. In other words, we could get big T from the mother, big T from the father. We could get two small t's or two recessive alleles, homozygous recessive, or we could get heterozygous, one of each. Just by convention, we would tend to put the dominant one first. If you write that in an exam, then I wouldn't worry too much about it, but usually we would put big T, little t, like that. Now, the application we usually come across seeing these are what we call Punnett squares. And a Punnett square is a way to work out the probability that offspring will inherit certain alleles. This is the one where we draw a grid, 3 by 3 grid. We're not going to use that top square. Now it doesn't matter which way around I do this, but I'm just going to make, and just for sheer ease of convention, just so you can see where these things are coming from, I'm going to use blue for boy and red for girl. Doesn't matter which side I put those on, I could put them the other way, it doesn't actually matter at all. So let's deal with the mother first. Let's imagine that the mother is heterozygous. Okay, so in all their body cells she has one big T allele, one little t allele, one dominant, one recessive allele for being able to roll a tongue. Now, when it comes to reproduction, egg cells, the gametes, only have half the number of chromosomes that the normal body cell has. So instead of having 2 copies, it only has 1. So an egg cell would either have in a big T or a little t. We put those possibilities into those boxes. The same thing here with the male. Let's say that the male is going to be homozygous recessive. Okay, so the male actually wouldn't be able to roll the tongue. It's a non-tongue roller. In this case, the sperm cells, exactly the same idea. Sperm cells would only have half the number of chromosomes. Remember, this is because when the sperm and egg join or fertilise, half the number, 23 in here, 23 in the egg cell. At fertilisation, to make the zygote, the fertilised egg cell, 2 23s add together, and we're back to our 23 pairs. So the male, the only possible thing it could have in the sperm cell is little t's. We now do our genetic cross. Again, remembering that convention. Of course, you wouldn't be expected to draw this in colour. I'm just doing it so you can see where each one comes from. So 4 possibilities. And remember, this doesn't mean that you're going to have 4 children. It means that every time you have a child, the possibilities are as follows. 2 possibilities out of 4 of having a heterozygous child. In other words, a child that could roll their tongue. So we could either say a 50% chance of having a heterozygous child or a child that can roll their tongue, or you could say it's 50-50 if you wanted to say it's a ratio. In fact, you could also say, because you can probably see there's a 50% chance of TT and a 50% chance of heterozygous. You could actually put the ratios 1 to 1 if you understand how to work out ratios. One last point on this, let me find some spare paper. A couple of the words you'll come across. Genotype and phenotype. Genotype's easy. Genotype is what combination of alleles do you get. So this genotype up here is big T, little t, or dominant and recessive if you like. That genotype is little t, little t. So the genotype is the combination of genes that you get. The phenotype is what it looks like. So a child that inherited those would be a tongue roller. A child that inherited those would be a non-tongue roller. So phenotype is what it actually looks like, what the visible characteristics of the organism are. Of course, we've been talking about humans here. Any organisms that use sexual reproduction, we could use the same kind of idea, and we can work out all kinds of possibilities of passing on genetic conditions like cystic fibrosis or Huntington's, for example. They're pretty straightforward when you get the hang of them. Do make sure you look on the question to see how it asks you does it ask you to put them as a percentage, or does it ask you to put them as a ratio? For example, this is a 2 to 2 because there are 2 chances there, 2 there. Or if you want to cancel it down, it's 1 to 1. Just look and see what they ask you for.